men even doing? Are we just slaves? Every day we cook, clean, care for the children, and you just return from the farm, sit under the tree, gist and laugh while we take care of the children, and still have to perform our wifely duties to them every night. Ladies, it ends today. The men must support us, else we will leave. Let's protest.
Yes!
Before today, the village of Umona lived in harmony. Men went to the farms, tending crops and hunting, while women stayed home, cooking, washing, and caring for the children. Families ate together, laughed, and lived peacefully. No one complained, no one ever felt cheated or enslaved, not until one fateful day when Ada, a hardworking woman, was washing clothes in the river. Her children splashed and played nearby. One small boy tried climbing a mango tree. "No! Don't jump!" Ada shouted, running to grab him. She glanced at the men resting under the big tree in the village square. They laughed and chatted after a long day. Ada clenched her fist. "My fellow women, are we not tired of being slaves?"
What are the men even doing? Are we just slaves? Every day we cook, clean, care for the children, and you just return from the farm, sit under the tree, gist and laugh while we take care of the children, and still have to perform our wifely duties to them every night. Ladies, it ends today. The men must support us, else we will leave. Let's protest.
Yes!
They marched forward where the men were in protest. They walked to the village square where the men sat. Children clutched their mothers' skirts, carrying baskets and pots. An elder, Okonkwo, asked, "What is the problem?" Ada pointed at the men. "We are tired. All day we work while the men rest. We demand support." The men bristled. "Do you think farm work is easy?" The women laughed bitterly. "Not easy, Ko. You sit in the shade all day while we work until our backs ache." The quarrel escalated. Voices overlapped. Some men pounded their fists on tree trunks, some women gestured wildly. "We are not your slaves," Ada yelled. A younger man countered, "And the water, the children, the house. Farm work is only part of our labor." The women shouted back, "We wake before dawn and rest not until night. Where is your understanding?" The elders tried to calm them. "Enough. Speak calmly," Okonkwo urged. But anger burned on both sides. Women returned to their homes, muttering, fists clenched, children clinging. Men remained under the mango tree, muttering among themselves, pride stung. Evening fell. Some women refused to cook for their husbands. Others cooked only for their children. Ada prepared food for her children, ignoring the empty plates for her husband. When the men returned, one asked, "Where is my food?" Ada replied, "If you are hungry, go cook for yourself. I am not your slave." The men muttered, "I am not your slave either," and left silently. It was only the women whose husbands usually supported them at home, and who in turn supported their husbands on the farm, that were able to make dinner for themselves and their families. The next day, the men returned from the farm empty-handed, without food or meat. When their wives asked them, "What did you bring back from the farm today?" the men replied, "We are not your slaves. If you want food or meat, go to the farm and cultivate it yourself." The women were angry, and that night, both the men, the women, and their children slept in hunger. The following evening, the women gathered by the riverside and held a meeting. They agreed that if the men were too stubborn to support them and provide for the family, then they would leave the village and form their own village on the other side of the river, where they would farm for themselves and take care of their children. They all agreed, and they insisted that every woman must come with them, and that any woman who stayed behind would be punished. Even the women who had good relationships with their husbands were forced to cross the river with the others, and the next day, they crossed to the other side of the river. When they arrived, they built new huts, started small farming, cooked together, and ate as one. Every woman became a friend to the other. Meanwhile, in the men's village, the men were at first excited that the women had left. They believed they could easily do everything themselves and that farming was not stressful. But they soon found it difficult to carry babies on their backs, make fire, and cook food at the same time. The men did not know how to cook properly, and when they tried, the food tasted bad and they could not eat it. They went to the river to wash clothes, carrying children on their backs, and found it exhausting. As they fetched water, carrying heavy pots on their heads while still backing the children, they wondered how the women had been doing all of this alone. One of the men asked, how did the women manage to do all these tasks every day? Do they have superpowers? It became clear to them that they had underestimated the level of sacrifice women made daily to keep the family together. As the days passed, it was only the men who had always supported their wives at home who were able to prepare decent meals and properly take care of their children. Even so, they spent every day and night missing their wives and daughters deeply. In the women's village, suffering did not spare them either. The women struggled to cultivate crops and found it difficult to hunt animals. It was impossible for them to manage the livestock, as the animals chased them whenever they tried to handle them. They could not even milk the cattle for their children. Although the women knew how to care for their children, cook, and keep the household clean, they lacked the skills needed to farm and provide food for themselves. Only the women who had previously supported their husbands on the farm were able to cultivate crops, hunt successfully, and take proper care of the livestock. As time went on, food began to run out in the women's village. Hunger returned, and the women decided to call a meeting. One after another, in the middle of the complaints and arguments, one woman stood up and said, "From what I have seen, what the men do is not easy at all. Farming and hunting are very difficult tasks. I would rather return to the village, beg my husband for forgiveness, and continue taking care of my children while he goes to the farm and hunts. Cooking and caring for children is not as hard as farming and hunting." Another woman quickly responded, "Yes, I agree with you. It is better we return and beg our husbands before hunger kills us in this place." As the discussion continued, another woman stood up and said, "Women, what are you saying? If you return to the village today and beg your husbands, nothing will change. You will remain enslaved. Do you think the men are enjoying themselves over there? Do you think taking care of children alone is easy for them? Be patient. The men will soon realize how important we are, and they will come to beg us." While the argument continued, a younger woman, one who had always supported her husband on the farm, stood up and said, "I don't think this is something we should fight over. The truth is that both sides are suffering. The work men do is not easy, and the work women do is also not easy. Things can only become easier if we support each other. I believe we should go back, apologize to our husbands, support them on the farm, and in return, they will support us at home. That is the only way peace and fairness can exist in our families." Before she could finish, an elderly woman rose and interrupted her angrily. She said, "No woman is going anywhere until the men come here to beg and apologize to us. If we return now, their pride will only grow. Let the suffering increase. Let the workload become heavier for them. That is the only way their pride and ego will be broken." She continued, "My fellow women, endure this hardship. It will not last forever. The men will soon realize their mistake and come begging for us to return." The women returned to their homes with hardened hearts, and all thoughts of going back to beg their husbands were completely erased from their minds. That same night, while the women were struggling with hunger and planning, a meeting was held in the men's village. The men voiced their complaints. Taking care of the children was exhausting, cooking was confusing, and the food in the house was already spoiling because they didn't know how to prepare it. Slowly, they began to realize that the work the women had been doing all along was far from easy. Some men even suggested that they should cross the river to beg their wives for forgiveness and invite them to return home. Everyone nodded in agreement, ready to set aside pride. But before they could act, one of the elders stood up and warned them. "Do not give up your pride so quickly," he said. If you go back and beg, the women will continue to disrespect you. They will expect you to do their work as well. Our fathers never washed plates, we will not do so. Stay strong. Do not rush. Sooner or later, the women will realize your importance and come to beg for peace themselves. With those words, the men hardened their hearts, choosing to wait and hold on to their pride. Meanwhile, the women's village was running out of food. Those who couldn't farm or hunt began to shrink from hunger. Their children cried constantly, and illness spread. The women struggled daily, but stubbornness and pride kept them from returning to their husbands. In the men's village, the situation was equally dire. Though food was everywhere, yam, pepper, onions, meat, the men did not know how to cook. Pots sat full of untouched ingredients, and the children cried for hunger. The men themselves grew weak and sick. Despite the abundance, the pride of the men prevented them from seeking help or cooperating with the women. Gradually, desperation overcame stubbornness. The women decided that rather than dying of hunger, the next day, they began packing their belongings, gathering their daughters, and preparing to return to the village to reconcile with their husbands. At the same time, the men packed their own food and belongings, resolved to meet their wives halfway. When they met by the riverside, the scene was filled with joy. The women ran toward their husbands and sons, embracing them tightly. The men held their wives and daughters close, relief and happiness on every face. Together, they returned to the village. Back at home, humility replaced pride. The men knelt before their wives, confessing that their ego had blinded them, and begged for forgiveness. The women, in turn, apologized for their stubbornness and pride. Both sides promised to support one another. Men would help in the kitchen and with the children, while women would assist on the farm. Peace was fully restored. Families began working together, women supported men in the fields, and men assisted women at home. Over time, both husbands and wives learned to appreciate the challenges and responsibilities of the other. One evening, the village elder called all couples to the central square. "Listen," he said, "the work of women is not easy, and the work of men is not easy. There is no need to argue over who works harder. As husband and wife, you are partners. You must support one another. Harmony and love flourish where cooperation and understanding exist. Expecting only one partner to bear the burden is unfair and will bring suffering to all." From that day onward, the couples lived in mutual respect and support, sharing responsibilities and joys alike. They laughed together, worked together, and cared for their children together. And so, the village thrived, and the story of cooperation, humility, and shared responsibility was told from generation to generation. They lived happily ever after.